Hey everyone, my name is Clay Carrington. I'm the Executive Director for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, and I'm really excited. We are starting our first series of video podcasts for 2021, and we're going to bring you some of the most incredible people in the space doing amazing things. And our very first podcast ever, we're kicking it off with Adam O'Brien. He's one of the very few people in Canada that saw the very early promise of Bitcoin's potential. He's the founder of Canada's oldest Bitcoin ATM company, Bitcoin Solutions, which is now called Bitcoin Well. They've just rebranded, with a vision of bringing Bitcoin education and accessibility to the mainstream in Canada. Adam is such an incredible pioneer because he's helping to make this very complex asset class understandable and, most importantly, accessible and to people of all backgrounds. And it doesn't matter what technological level that you have. If you're a beginner or all the way down to expert, you can access the services. And so since his very first ATM was launched in Edmonton back in 2014, his company has now grown to over 100 locations across Canada. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the biggest really soon. And this is a great sign of cryptocurrency's growth and mainstream appeal. So Bitcoin Well also had a really amazing announcement that we're going to get into and talk about a little later. And their exciting news is they're going to become the very first publicly traded Bitcoin ATM company in Canada, and they're listing on the TSX Venture under BTCW. So thank you so much, Adam, for sitting down with me and having this incredible conversation all around your success and Bitcoin and your plans for growth for the future. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
No, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Awesome. So I'm excited to kick off my first question for you. So when it comes to buying Bitcoin, it has always had this reputation of being rather challenging. So I'd love to hear your stories. What kind of obstacles did you face when you were first trying to buy Bitcoin, and how did getting into Bitcoin, how did starting Bitcoin Well, like how do you shape that direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first bought Bitcoin, I was kind of charged with two different options. I could wire money to Russia, or I could meet some like sketchy guy in a back alley, and neither sounded great. But I've been investigating and kind of researching Bitcoin, and I wanted to buy it. So I opted for the back alley, and ultimately I had the experience you would expect from someone meeting someone else in a back alley to buy a digital token, and it wasn't very pleasant. I kind of, that's kind of where it started with me of like, there must be a better way, and I can do this better, and so I kind of just put a standing ad on Kijiji. I was like, hey, I'm gonna buy and sell Bitcoin. I'll be the sketchy guy in a back alley, but we'll do it like Starbucks instead or something. And so and coupled with that, kind of like you said, like focused around education, how does it work, et cetera, et cetera. A few months after doing that, I was like pretty busy. I found that my phone was ringing, and it was a pretty good side hustle. And then the first Bitcoin ATM was launched in Vancouver in late 2013, and I saw that as being the next play, is ultimate accessibility and an ultimate kind of user experience. There was no waiting for banking transfers at that time, especially sending money from a bank to a Bitcoin exchange was a big no-no and not going to happen. So we bought one and then deployed Alberta's first Bitcoin ATM in February. And then after that, Saskatchewan's first Bitcoin ATM in May of 2014. And from there, we've just been focused on accessibility. We've been focused on making sure that people have that onboarding and offboarding ramp kind of like, accessible in the fastest and safest way. And even today, that's like our dominating, decision maker is this product fast, easy, and safe? And if it doesn't hit those three boxes, then chances are it doesn't go to market, and chances are, we're striving to make it better. I think that, ease, as you noted, like Bitcoin is sound money, and everyone needs sound money. But at the same time, we need to make sure that it's easy to use so that anyone can use it. And then if it's not safe, if we're not giving customers control over their Bitcoin, if we become, if we don't encourage and push for them to self-custody, ultimately we're not doing our jobs.
Oh yeah, that's huge. So of course I do have to just point out, I love that you would have preferred to meet a random stranger in a shady back alley to go buy your Bitcoin versus sending your money to Russia. Like, I just had to point that out. I loved hearing that.
My mom thought I was crazy on both courses. So
I can imagine that, but it was just like, well, But the one, especially around that self-custody piece, like the one I really love that you guys, like you're not like custodians, like people give the fiat currency and they get their Bitcoin and you're not holding it and storing it for them. You're teaching them, be your own self-sovereign bank. Take, not your keys, not your Bitcoin is a very common phrase that needs to be reiterated to the point of almost like, flogging a dead fish. It's like, no, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. If you're leaving them on exchanges, if you're leaving it in the custody of like online wallets and you're not able to like pull it off into cold storage, like you are risking losing the asset that you're investing into. So very, very important. Love that you made that comment and love that, people have to give you that Bitcoin address that they give you the money. And it's just like, no, you want the Bitcoin, immediately has to get sent to your own private wallet. So yeah, that's a great one.
The first step at our machines, the first thing you do is tell the machine where you want your Bitcoin to go, because we want to make sure that no matter what, we know where to send those coins before we get money, before we get anything. It's step one, scan your Bitcoin address.
Yes, and always double check that too. I saw this hilarious tweet the other day from this gentleman. He was saying, like, I went to the bank and I transferred $200 million and I sent it to the wrong address. And like the bank was giving, I had to completely prove where the money came from before they'd reverse a transaction. And then this hashtag of Bitcoin fixes this. And I was like, sir, no, it does not, like at all. Like yeah, Bitcoin does not solve for stupid. I just want to explain that. If you don't know what address,
checking.
no. Well, that's just the thing. Much like sending a wire transfer, if you're going to send your Bitcoin somewhere, triple check your address because there is no revoking that. Like I told the man, I was like, no, the banks fixes this because you're so lucky that you were in the banking system because they gave you your money back. I was like,
yeah, that is not a solution. A benefit of third-party custody. But of course, like the reverse, right? If that had been something that was not supposed to be reversed, or the fact that they have the power to do that is very, very scary, I think, for me personally anyways.
Well, no, that it is. I think I was laughing at that man's tweet because I was like, it's not a solution, but
in this example, it's absolutely phenomenal. And you're right. He is very lucky that he was in that third-party custody system.
Exactly. And I think his frustration was that he had to prove to the bank where his money came from. And it was just like, right. Well, I'd rather prove to the bank where 200 million came from to get it back than, but when it comes to Bitcoin, the thing I love about having that self-custody of it, I don't have to trust anybody else. I don't have to go to the bank and ask their permission to wire my money somewhere that I want it to go, right? It's my decision. I don't have to get the person sitting at the ATM to get the branch manager in to get some third party to validate and then ask me 50 million questions, right? It's your money. You make the decisions on where you want to send it to, and you can do it, relatively anonymously. So that part is really nice. Absolutely. So my next question to you, one of the things I really also love about like Bitcoin Well and Canadian Blockchain Consortium, we're very aligned when it comes to understanding education is truly the absolute key when it comes to just like mainstream adoption and understanding of emerging technologies like Bitcoin. Like education has to come before adoption, because if you don't understand what you're getting into, you're going to be afraid. And that's where a lot of people are right now. They're kind of afraid. So I'd love to know, what kind of outreach does Bitcoin Well do? Do you teach like government, industry, and individuals? Like how do you spread all this amazing knowledge that you have?
Yeah, great question. So at our offices here on White Ave in Edmonton, we love having people kind of come in and right now they book an appointment. They sit down with some of our customer success team and they learn, all about wallets and protocols. And we go as deep into the technical realm as they kind of want us to. And oftentimes they leave with a better understanding of kind of what self-custody is and how to do that safely, what a hardware wallet is and how cold storage works, and the difference between kind of cold and hot wallets and all that good stuff. Over and above that, we've been working on some kind of like an academy of sorts, I guess you'd call it, and having these pre-recorded kind of like, frequently asked question videos where we're going to be able to answer the frequently asked questions kind of in a reasonable time frame, very quick, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Oh, little puppy.
Sorry, she was whining and wanted to join in on the conversation. Sorry.
Fan of sound money. And me personally, like I love working with government bodies that need our help. But of course, a government official trying to do the right thing, like a police officer, or, there's a lot of fraud victims in the industry, and there's a lot of people that are taken advantage of with Bitcoin. And so every part that we can do to prevent that. We've worked with the police in the past as a part of Fraud Prevention Week, which I think happens in March every year. We've worked with them to get awareness out and to help the police understand how Bitcoin works, and how the blockchain isn't necessarily a tracking tool, but it can be used if used efficiently, and how Bitcoin is not the bad guy in this situation. The Bitcoin blockchain is not some like easy way out for the police officers to catch the bad guys. They still have to do their part and prevent and educate the general population on money. I think that the way that education should be working is, people right now are very frivolous with money because forever it's been, the ability to reverse it has been quite possible. And so if we'd started and stated, like, if you walk around with a bag of cash and that cash goes missing, you don't blame anyone but yourself. You shouldn't have a bag of cash on your back. And in the same way, if you send somebody Bitcoin that shouldn't have that Bitcoin, there's no one to blame but yourself, or in turn, maybe the people that have been educating you. And so I think that kind of mindset has to shift. And as an organization, we certainly want to start at the top and get that education kind of worked out into there.
No, absolutely. And it's the phishing schemes and the ways that people are going to be trying to gain access, or do nefarious deeds. It's, for us, a lot of education, like security, like, don't open emails that, from people you don't know, like if someone's asking, like they're doing ransomware things in Bitcoin. So there's just so many different ways where people need to understand like how to create that security if you're going to be, taking ownership of your Bitcoin. So one of my next questions to you, and I'm definitely excited to ask this one of you. I've been, I think, kind of like ranting a little bit around the quantitative easing that's been happening these days. So in terms of the benefits of Bitcoin, we're now seeing like a very incredible growth in quantitative easing in our money supply. I know, like in Canada specifically, we have about 70% of our money in circulation has come out in the last like 8 or 9 months. Our government is actually asking to be able to expand their debt up to 1.8 trillion, which is like never happened in Canadian history before. We have like short-term interest rates, so our interest is constantly fluctuating with the debt that our government has taken on, and we're probably paying almost like $9 million a day in interest rates right now. So it's like we're in this money printing insane business right now, which is kind of scary because other countries have gone this way, or like Venezuela, Zimbabwe. So how do you see Bitcoin? How do you see that Bitcoin could act as a hedge against this inflationary crisis that we're currently in?
Great question. Yeah, I think Bitcoin, like the economic properties of Bitcoin, just prevent this. They prevent this type of debacle from happening. We can run the numbers, so to speak. We can look at the code of Bitcoin and understand that there's no possible opportunity for this type of manipulation with Bitcoin. And so when you have a source of money, or a form of money that holds value worldwide, that is not manipulated or not possibly manipulated by third parties, you have a hedge against things that are not that way. And so Bitcoin offers a type of savings plan. Really, it's not something that can be manipulated, and therefore not something that you have to worry about getting rid of very, very fast. When you perfect example is we are not very good. We are not incentivized very well to save our money. If you had cash under your mattress for the last 50 years, that cash would be worth considerably less today than it was 50 years ago. And this is, for some reason, a concept that we've accepted as a society, and this has been fine. And so Bitcoin is the opposite. If you had Bitcoin from 5 years ago, it is worth considerably more today. And you are very incentivized to think twice before, should I sell this Bitcoin and buy whatever it is you're looking to buy, or should I, how important is this to me? And would I rather have more money or more purchasing power in the future?
Absolutely. So one of the things I really love about Bitcoin is like when people start comparing it to something like gold. So if we think about the history of gold, we had a gold standard for about 5,000 years. And the reason why having a gold standard was very important is because money, like governments couldn't print more money than they had their gold reserves, right? So they could only spend what they had. And quantitative easing started coming out because banks went, most people, again, like you're not going to walk around with a, $1,000 worth of cash or, $1 million worth of cash, right? Because if you do that and you lose your money, like you have a high probability of getting robbed. So people would rather, put their money in the bank, store the money in the bank. And the banks were going, well, you're not really using your money. And I could make money off of your money. So they started issuing out like notes, like IOUs. It's like, well, you can borrow this money, but I'm going to charge you for borrowing this money. And, at some point you're going to repay this debt and I'm going to be able to repay the gold. And that was kind of like those first issues of quantitative easing. So if you're like the Medici banking family and stuff like that. But now all of a sudden we started going off the gold standard. We started right around like World War I or II, and it completely ended in about the 1960s with Nixon. And next thing you know, it's like governments are just hyperinflating. It's like, well, we don't have to worry about having gold reserves. Like we're actually in Canada, one of the only G7 countries in the world that have less than 100 tons of gold. I think we have like 77 ounces. So we have nothing that backs the value of our currency. And therefore it's like, well, we'll just keep taking on debt and debt and debt. And there is no incentive to hold your money because just look what happens in Venezuela when you produce that much money. You want to go spend what you have immediately because you want to be able to go buy the groceries to feed your family because tomorrow your money will have just that much less value. And Bitcoin, you can't inflate it. You can't double spend it. You can't corrupt it. You have that fixed supply. And it's only increased in value. It's like the soundest form of digital gold you can get your hands on. Because even gold now can be manipulated. Like, I don't know if you saw that, but there was an article stating that they've actually finally been able to recreate gold. Like that's how alchemy even started. They were trying to turn lead to gold and now they finally did it. So gold isn't even a scarce resource anymore, which is petrifying.
Crazy. Yeah. No, another thing about gold too is we don't know what the scarcity is. I mean, for all we know, we could be sitting, on tons and tons of gold if we just dig a little further. Or, we have the known scarcity of Bitcoin is arguably its greatest asset. And it is the only asset on planet Earth that has a known scarcity. We have no idea the scarcity of really anything else that is kind of valuable. I mean, we might have reasonable hypotheses, but I don't of which, sorry?
Time. That is a known. You don't. Well, it's unknown, but also known. You have a finite amount of time on this planet.
True,
it's either like 100 or less.
because you can't transfer it.
Very true. Don't you only wish, eh? It's just like, can I exchange my Bitcoin for like additional years of life? I don't know. Maybe one day. But yeah, it's amazing that sound money does finally exist and gives you that assurance. You can, you want to hold it yourself because you want to make sure that, you're protecting your own valuable asset, but you have the incentive of time preference. You totally want to hold it long term. And I know I do. I don't know you, Adam, you're probably pretty, what would I say, like, you're not really impacted by the price of Bitcoin right now, because as far as you're concerned, it's just like, nope, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. I'm going to hold my Bitcoin.
That's exactly right. I'm pretty desensitized to the price at this point.
Well, before I ask my next question, I just want to say, so I really love the clothing line that you came up with. I saw you announced on, I think it was Instagram, and I was like, oh, okay, I totally had to buy one. And of course I was going to wear it during this interview, but what I love is it says, I told you so. And it made me feel really good because when I saw that, I was like, the amount of people that were just like looking at me like I had like, 5 heads, or I was absolutely crazy when I would try to talk to them about Bitcoin. They're just like, you're nuts. And it's just like, yeah, no, still here. Best performing asset class of the last decade. So I love this. And you can check them out, bitcoinwell.com/shop. They have all kinds of really fun things with this exact kind of like branding and logo on it with the I told you so. So if you're like me and you've been involved for a long time, absolutely go get this shirt. So
right, your stripes have been earned when you go through both the bear markets.
Yes, I have made it through bear markets, and at the crash of the bear market, it was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep buying, stacking my sats, holding because I had zero doubt in my mind. I was like, I know it's coming back. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I absolutely knew it. And like, actually, the thing about Bitcoin, I was so excited about when I watched that .com kind of hit. I think I was like 15 when it was like really becoming big, and I was like, I missed it. Like at 15, I felt like I missed I missed that chance or that window. I was like, will there ever be something that's just going to blow up as big again? And then when I saw Bitcoin, I was like, I'm at the early stage of this like incredible emerging new thing. And I was like, I'm absolutely getting involved, you know? So it's really exciting. And your guys' involvement has just through the roof. Like not only do you have 100 Bitcoin ATMs, but now that this massive news has come out, you're about to become the very first Bitcoin ATM company that's going public. I would love to know, so like what motivated you to actually like acquire this listing on the TSX Venture? How did you find the process? And thank you for creating so much more credibility in the space by doing it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you said. The reasons behind it was for that credibility and for that. I think giving the market a sound business to invest in while still getting exposure. I think to the ultimate the market. In 2017, we saw people blocking into the space looking to get exposure to the market, and then we saw them get wrecked when the market kind of dissipated because it wasn't built on sound business. And we have a very transactional business. We make money every time we do a transaction, just like a traditional, vending machine or ATM does. And we are a very easy to understand business. So we're hoping that we will have people, looking for exposure due to the industry and how hot the industry is right now. But then they'll realize that we can like post profits and we can, become, a growing and sustainable business, even in Bitcoin's cycles, which as we know, are very cyclical.
Absolutely. No, well, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. I'd like to let you all know, so Adam and I are going to be teaching a class on what is Bitcoin, and Adam's going to be teaching you guys all about the history of money, the gold standard, more on quantitative easing. And so we're doing that on January 28th at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. It's going to be live, so it's going to be Q&A. Adam loves if you ask him any and every question. So don't be scared about asking questions on Bitcoin. He can answer them. And check him out, definitely bitcoinwell.com. If you're looking to purchase some Bitcoin, there's definitely an ATM near you. I know there's tons of them in Alberta. They're all across Canada, so just check out their website for that. With CBC, we're going to be doing lots more podcasts. We just have a magazine that's coming out this month, which is really exciting. We teach educational classes. We have webinars. If you'd like to get engaged with our organization, we have committees. We're the largest industry not-for-profit in Canada right now, and we're growing all the time. So please check us out, check out Adam, and I look forward to seeing or having you guys see our next incredible podcast. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, hold on. Okay.